What's up, guys? Welcome back. This is 7.33C patch notes, and I want to go over it real quick and point out the things that I think that are the most important. So, start with, here we go, there's some additional notes right here. Raise the minimum MMR to be eligible for Immortal Draft from 5620 to 6500, so RIP Immortal players. Sucks for you guys, I guess. Modify the MMR gained and lost from matches when teams have varying skill to better approximate the expected chance each team has of winning. Games where the teams aren't equal in rating now credit the lower rated team with a better chance of victory, and the results for players with high rank confidence will be closer to plus minus 25 MMR. So I've been noticing with my games, I've been getting below 25 MMR before the patch. You know, sometimes like 22. One game I got minus 10. The wording on this is a little strange because it says the lower rated team has a better chance of victory. I don't know. I think they just mean they're trying to normalize this a little bit. But anyway, let's go into the rest of the patch notes. So these top ones I think are super important, and I'm actually really excited for it as a support player. So picking up a wisdom rune now also grants experience to the lowest level hero on the team. If the lowest level hero picks up the rune, experience goes to the second lowest level hero. So this is absolutely great for everybody really, but especially for supports, because it means usually both supports are going to get the wisdom rune. And even if your mid wants to like bottle the rune or something like that, your position 5 is probably still going to get it. So that's super sweet. Really excited about that because XP has been like really rough for supports this patch. Like it's definitely, you know, you have those games where you kind of lose your lanes and then you're kind of like level 5 for 13 minutes and it doesn't feel good at all. So anyway, here's another change that helps with that. Observer Ward experience bounty increased from 50 plus 6 per minute to 70 plus 8 per minute. So that's a nice change as well, because it means if you're doing well as a support and you're catching all the enemy's wards, you get rewarded a little bit more with that. Now, you know, 20 experience for an early ward, you know, not huge, right? But this per minute thing means that as it goes into the late game, like this will actually be a decent comeback mechanic for supports. This one I'm really excited about as well. When a stacked camp is killed, the player that did the stacking receives 30% of experience gained, same percentage as gold bounty. This is really good, and I'm gonna actually try and exploit this as much as possible and deliberately go out of my way to go stack a bunch of camps. Because if you think about it, with the XP and the gold, every 3 stacks that you make is like you cleared 1 camp. So if you can weave that into your gameplay, like this is gonna help a lot, especially with how farmy this patch can be. Sometimes, it's not always, but sometimes it actually does end up just being like you can't end the game because there's too much farm everywhere. This is also going to be a nice catch-up mechanic for supports in particular. Tormentor Reflect now always affects attacking hero regardless of distance. I suppose this is to affect techies putting mines on the Tormentor and Enchantress Hurricane Pike TPing away from the Tormentor and just killing it herself. So that's interesting as well. Cleared multiple tree paths that led to dead ends and deceptive looking terrain. I'm curious to see where these are or if I'll even notice them, but I have noticed there's a lot of instances, especially in the bottom lane, where it's like, it kind of looks like I can go through these trees, but I can't. So that's interesting. I really want to try and find where these are. Hero bonus attribute points can now be skilled starting at level 6. So I suppose there must have been some heroes that were just taking stats early and they wanted to change that, because I can't really see another reason to change this. This one is kind of interesting though. Universal hero damage per attribute increased from 0.6 to 0.7. So that's really interesting as well, right? So if you get, let's say an Iron Branch, you should be at what? Like 2.1 extra damage now instead of 1.8 extra damage. So this means that universal heroes are going to scale a lot better, but we'll see what they did with that for early levels, because it's kind of interesting. Let's see. So item updates. Lifesteal from creeps on purchasable and neutral items increased from 50 to 60%. Okay, the game's getting a little bit more farmy now. This is nicer for heroes like Sven and stuff like that that have to buy lifesteal. Or don't have to, but they want to. Boots of Bearing, slight nerf, 200 extra gold on the recipe. Bracer finally got a buff. It gets +1 damage and then +2 damage at 25 minutes. So cool. Crimson Guard recipe cost increased by 125. Total cost, same thing, 125. Now it costs mana to activate, so this is actually probably going to be pretty significant for those strength heroes that don't have a lot of mana. But, you know, minor buff, not the end of the world. If you need a Crimson Guard, you're still going to buy a Crimson Guard, right? Eternal Shroud, strength went up by 2. Shroud now also converts physical damage from spells to mana. So this is probably mostly irrelevant, but it is kind of a nerf to heroes like Bristleback and Alchemist and Dazzle that actually have physical spells, right? But, well, I don't know, we'll see. Because I don't see this item typically a lot of my games anyway. Maybe that's just people kind of ignoring it. But yeah, this is kind of interesting. Fairy Fire got a 5 gold buff, which is kind of nice. I guess that's directly a buff to a lot of mid heroes. But this is also an item that I think is like under purchased by a lot of people for how good it is. So now it's the same cost as a Mango, which is pretty sweet. Pavis now also blocks damage from spells, or physical damage from spells. Same thing as the Shroud. Just gets a direct nerf to like heroes that have physical damage spells. Pipe of Insight, health regen bonus decreased 8.5 to 6. Magic resistance went down by 5, and barrier mana cost went up by 50. So another nerf to an aura item that a lot of offlaners are buying. Ring of Health lost a bit of health regen, 5.25 to 4.75. Not the end of the world, but it is kind of ticking down into like, it's actually not that much health regen anymore. Sentry Ward, True Sight Radius increased from 900 to 1000. So this is interesting, and I remember people talking about this at the start of the patch. Like, you made the map bigger, but you didn't make wards or sentries bigger. Well, now they did. I mean, 100 is not the end of the, you know, not huge, right? But this does mean that in some cases, one sentry will probably cover an entire camp on the side where it wouldn't before. But we'll have to find like specific instances of that. Vanguard. Okay, so Vanguard nerf. It lost a bit of health regen off of this. Damage block melee heroes decreased from 64 to 56. Okay, that's what, 8 damage block and 4 on ranged heroes. So not enormous, but they are like definitely nerfing anything. I think the main issue with Vanguard is not like that the stats are like crazy good. They are good, but it's that you can kind of save gold and just walk to the side or the secret shop and buy it super early. And so we'll see if this amount of health regen is enough to really make a difference. But the other issue with Vanguard is that you can disassemble it into items like Octarine Core. So I think really what they need to do with this is either make it so you can't disassemble it or just make it more expensive. I'm fine with the stats being what they are, but it really just needs to be more expensive, you know? I think, anyway. All right, neutral item updates. So it seems like for the most part, they're buffing the ones no one picked and nerfing the ones everybody picks. It's pretty straightforward. Duelist gloves get 5 attack speed and wider search range on the buff for it. So that went up by 300. Seeds of Serenity now has 3 health regen bonus, which is pretty sweet, actually. That's 150 health, 3 health regen, and you get the little Tango AoE effect. So this will be a nice sustain item, specifically on supports that are squishy and want to buy Arcane Boots. This will be a nice pickup. Spark of Courage. This one up by 8 damage and 2 armor. So that's pretty good. Trusty Shovel, 40-second cooldown instead of 50. Nice. Dragon Scale gets a little bit more burn damage, the dot it applies, so it went up by 4. Cool. Eye of the Vizier, they are really pushing this item because they just added the mana regen onto it, and now it's 1.25 mana. So this is like pretty solid now, I think, because already with just that little bit of mana regen, it was making up for losing that mana pool, and now it's like really good, I think. Because keep in mind, as your mana regen or your mana pool is lower, any regen you do is kind of multiplied if you then change your stats, right? So this is kind of interesting. Gossamer Cape. Cooldown down to 4 seconds. Nice buff there. Specials Array now does a little bit more damage, so it does actually adds 20 damage when it triggers, and it always prioritizes heroes as secondary targets. Pretty cool. Van Brace, 2 stat nerf, 1 stat nerf. Not the end of the world, but it does look less appealing. Because, you know, it's not a nice even number, right? Of 10 and 5. You get what I'm saying. Vampire Fang's got 4% spell lifesteal, pretty cool. I think this is gonna get picked up a lot now. Defiant Shell, 2 armor on that one. Enchanted Quiver, 25 attack range, like, okay, cool, whatever. A little bit of attack speed on Vindicator's Axe, +5. Ascetics Cap got 5 health regen, and the duration of its status resistance went up by 1 second. So this is probably like a pretty solid pick now. as you got the health bonus and 20 health regen and status resistance on it. It's pretty cool. Havoc damage now has much better scaling on its ability. So instead of 1, it's 1.5. So this could be kind of crazy, like later on as a nuke or like a farming item. Martyr's Plate, 5% magic resistance on that. Pretty cool. Spell Prism just got an attribute nerf. This item was picked up a lot, like especially like endgame, you know? You look at the score screen and like 3 people on both teams have Spell Prisms. It looks pretty funny. So I can understand this one. Stormcrafter got 5 movement speed bonus. I'm still noticing that people forget that this doesn't have the Yules element to it anymore, which is funny to me. So I can understand why they're adding move speed to it. Now, on a lot of the heroes, because they changed the universal damage like algorithm, right? So now they get more per attribute. They've had to reduce the base damage, but then that stat change makes up for it. So there's a lot of heroes where it just says level 1 damage unchanged. So we'll just kind of go through those real quick. So Abaddon, Bane, let's see, Brewmaster, Broodmother, Chen, Darkseer, Dazzle. There's another one here somewhere. Some of them gained increased damage, but they did that deliberately. Nyx, you know, so there's a bunch of those where there's actually not really any patch notes on them at all, because now they're just the same as they were before. So let's go through these though. Alchemist, base movement speed decreased by 5. That always hurts. Not the end of the world, but it, you know, it's something. Unstable Concoction, you get 2 extra seconds on this cooldown. So that's going to really affect how aggressive he can be in lane. Again, not the end of the world, but, you know, it adds up over time. Grievel's Greed, base bonus gold decrease from 3 to 2, extra bonus gold decrease from 3 to 2. So this is like a 33% decrease on how powerful Grievel's Greed is. So I think you're not going to have to be as worried about Alchemist like out-farming your whole team as much. It's still there, it's just you have like more time, right? Chemical Rage bonus movement speed decreased from 40 to 20 at level 1. That's pretty significant. It's going to mean he's a lot easier to gank earlier, right? He's also a lot less scary. And then the talent for Grievel's Greed is just the same as the changes they did here. So if you want to double the effects of Grievel's Greed, it's just, now it's 2, or it's 4 instead of 6, right? All right, Ancient Apparition, lost a little bit of int gain. That should affect his late game damage output if you're doing like carry Ancient Apparition. Batrider gets +2 damage, level 1. Beastmaster loses 3 damage, level 1. He gets a little bit less vision on the Hawk, so now it's 750. This was 750, now it's 600, and at 900 or level 4, it's the same thing. So it's just his early game vision is being reduced. Bounty Hunter's losing a bit of health regen. Where'd he go? There he goes. Yeah, lost a bit of health regen. Not the end of the world. Track cooldown. So this is now, instead of 4 seconds all the time, now it's 654. So that's going to be annoying. Both these changes are annoying for Bounty Hunter, but they're not like super the end of the world. But it does mean that if Bounty Hunter isn't setting up before a team fight, he's going to get less targets tracked before they die. Because you know, sometimes like the fight's like kind of starting and it's slow and you kind of have time to like track a bunch of people and then the fight starts. That's going to directly affect this early on. So it means overall his scalability, especially with his team, is going to be a little bit lower. But again, not the end of the world. Unchanged. Okay, +2 strength on CK. He gets 30 damage on Chaos Bolt on the minimum damage, level 1, and level 4 as well. So just 30 extra damage minimum on Chaos Bolt. Same as the lifesteal change from earlier, +10% lifesteal on Chaos Strike. Gets an extra 5% on talent, and Phantasm Illusion incoming damage reduction increased from 75% to 100%. I suppose this means if you take this, you just take no damage on your illusions if you take this, which sounds kind of crazy. I'm actually kind of worried about what this means. Maybe CK will start getting picked, because he's not really, I haven't seen him get it picked at all, honestly. Clockwork, he gets +2 damage. That's really nice, because right now Clockwork's base damage is like 47, and it sucks. He gets a little bit of agility increase and int increase, which this doesn't really matter. This is quite nice though, because Clockwork does have mana problems, but it also means because he's universal, he's going to get a lot more damage later on. And I mean, I don't know, maybe right click clockwork. I doubt it. I don't think that's a thing, but you could do a super late game build with him with his ags and everything, right? Anyway, CM lost 20 damage on Crystal Nova level 1. That hurts a lot. This was 130 to 260. Now it's 110 to 260. So sucks for you, Crystal Maiden. You never get to be good. Let's see. Dark Willow plus 2 damage level 1. Luminosity also got 10% lifesteal, so this seems like an across-the-board thing. They just want this to be 50%, not or 60, not 50% in general. It makes it easier to farm, right? Dazzle gets some like carry talent changes, which I think is strange. So 5 attack speed on this talent and 15 damage DPS on this. Now that's not nothing to sneeze at. Like 15 DPS, that adds up, right? Especially on this spell. Am I taking that at level 20, or am I even going to get to level 20? Well, now maybe I will with the XP changes, but I don't really care about these, and I play a lot of Dazzle, so whatever. Crypt Swarm. This is going up in damage over level. So 85 on level 1, same thing, but it goes up to 325 instead of 310. It's kind of nice, not a huge deal. Extra 25 radius on Silence, and 5 seconds on Exorcism. This is probably the biggest change, but these are all kind of minor in my opinion. All right, Doom got some nerfs. So bonus gold on Devour instead of 50, it's now 30, going up to 195 instead of 200. So later on, it's not really going to matter at all, but you know, 20 gold, yeah, it adds up really. Again, not like massive. Bonus damage. So Infernal Blade, Axe Shard bonus damage increase from 150 to 125. This will probably add up though, because this is a low cooldown spell, so this is actually probably more significant. DK got 5 move speed, woohoo! And he also got some BAT improvements. Now he's 1.6 instead of 1.7, so maybe more late game Dragonite getting picked up. Earthshaker, Fisher range gets 200 on it, which is kind of crazy. Enchant Totem cast point improved, that's going to be easier to use now. He also gets a stun duration buff. They just nerfed all the stun durations, and he's getting a buff on it. So now it's 1.0 to 1.3 instead of 0.9 to 1.2. So that's really interesting, actually, that they're doing any stun duration buffs. Maybe it's to make his combo a little bit easier. Echo Slam, so level 1, instead of 70, it's now 85 damage, up to 125 instead of 110. So 85 to 125, pretty cool. Radius increased, oh my god. Cooldown decreased as well. So 130 to 110 instead of 150 to 110. So maybe Earthshaker is going to get more popular. I don't know. I don't really think so. I think melee 4s are kind of really hard to play in the current state of the game, but this is a lot of buffs, and it's also a direct buff to like when he picks up his Aghanim Scepter, right? Like Earthshaker is going to be a lot easier to execute for one, you know, like it's easier to cast, it's easier to Fisher, easier to combo people with stuns, easier to land an Echo Slam. You can do it more often. Like it's just kind of crazy altogether. Really curious about this one. Enigma, Midnight Pulse, cooldown decreased. It was 50 to 35, now it's 40 to 25. Okay, cool. His uptime's a little bit higher, but that doesn't really matter if Black Hole isn't up more often, so whatever, no one picks this hero anymore. Gyrocopter got 5 move speed. That's pretty interesting on a positional based hero like Gyro. Hoodwink, Acorn Shot, slow duration increased, so instead of 0.35 it's now 0.45. Mana cost decreased, 75 to 105 went to 70 to 85. Jesus. Okay, she's gonna be spamming this a lot. That's a pretty big buff there. Bushwhack, damage increased from 75 to 300 to 90 to 300. Okay, stop buffing Hoodwink. She's really annoying to play against, but this is kind of significant. She's gonna kill you a lot more now. Good luck, guys. Huskar, base strength increased by 3. Cool. Invoker, base strength by 1. All right, this is a lot of numbers. Cold Snap, let's just try and get the gist of it. Duration decreased from 3 to 6.5 to 3 to 5.8. Okay. Freeze duration increased. So you are stunned for a little bit longer when you get snapped, but you're not affected with the cold snap debuff for as long. Okay, great. At least later on. Literally, it's still 3 seconds. Tornado travel distance. This is kind of crazy. This was 800 all the way up to 3600. Now it's 1500 to 3600. So just like late game nerf to cold snap, but early game buff to cold snap. Huge early game buff to Tornado, almost doubling the range on it, level 1. Kind of nuts. EMP Aghanim Shard pull speed increased from 100 to 175. I honestly haven't even seen this that much, so I don't know how significant that speed change is, but that is almost double again, so probably significant. Chaos Meter, contact damage increased from 52 to 185. From that to 55 to 220. Okay, so this is going to be a lot better. And then the burn damage increase 10 to 38 to 10 to 45. Okay, so they're really trying to buff Invoker here. All right, and Io got 2 damage. Coddle got some nerfs here. So damage decreased on Blinding Light was 100, now it's 85. That's pretty significant. 220 unchanged, level 4. Radius decrease, so now it has to scale up to 500, starts at 425, then goes to 500. Cast range rescaled from 500 to 650 down to 400 to 700. So it gets better later, but it's worse early. Cooldown increased 22 to 16, 25 to 16. All right, it's trying to make him less annoying to play against. That's fine. This spell was getting used a lot. Talents. Chakra Magic cooldown reduction decreased from 4 to 3. Woohoo! Okay, so Coddle's going to be a much better like late game option, or better than he was before, and a little bit worse as an early game option. All right, Legion Commander strength gain decreased. Oof, that hurts. Overwhelming odds bonus attack speed decreased from 65 to 140 to 50 to 140. Okay, she's kind of a really annoying to play against with all the things that are stacked into overwhelming odds, so I can understand why they did this. I kind of wish they'd done the damage on it, but whatever. Press the attack health regen decreased from 30 to 60 to 24 to 60, so it's the same level 4. Early game, this is going to hurt her a little bit. Lifestealer. Rage cooldown decreased by 1 second. Ghoul Frenzy got 5% extra slow on it at all levels. And Infest gets some cooldown reduction. So now it's 80, 65, 50 instead of 100, 75, 50. So really trying to push Lifestealer here. That's interesting. It's going to be much more of a threat in lane. Lina, damage increased from 85 to 310 to 85 to 325. This is actually the same as Death Prophet. I think it's the exact same numbers. Double check though. 245, 325. Yeah, it's exactly the same. So Dragon Slave and Crypt Swarm are like almost the same spell now. Light Strike Array, damage increased from, or I guess they were before anyway. Light Strike Array, damage increased from 100 to 250 to 210 to 260. So plus 10 damage on Light Strike Array. Talent, extra 20 damage on the talent, and health, an extra 25 health. They're trying to push Spellcaster Lina a little bit more since Carry Lina is not getting played anymore. And I'm really excited about this too. So Lion is continually getting buffed in really small increments. So he gets an extra 2 int, woohoo. Earth Spike gets a 1 second cooldown reduction on it now. So 12 to 11 seconds, cool. Damage increased from 100 to 280 to 105 to 300. That's always nice. Any early game damage is helpful. All right. One of the problems with Lion is that 2 of his spells don't do any damage, so the more damage they stack onto Earth Spike, the more compensates for that. But I'm really excited about the 300 damage at level 4, because that means you can now just nuke a range creep very easily without having to throw an extra right click when you're roaming around farming the map, right? So that's pretty cool. Mana and Drain, Ag Shard magic resistance increased from 50 to 80%. I think this is similar to what they did with Juggernaut, Blade Fury, and Lifestealer's Rage, where because they nerfed the 100% magic resistance element of the game, they wanted to give the heroes that had that before on a spell like high magic resistance. They gave them like 80 or 70% or whatever it was. So they're doing the same thing here with Lion. He used to be able to just go magic immune, but now he gets 80% magic resistance with debuff immunity. So that's pretty cool as well. Like, it's all positive changes on Lion. I'm hoping this like eventually will push him to a point where he's like super duper playable. Like right now I can win with him for sure and I can have an impact, but it still feels a little awkward sometimes. All right, these are some easy ones. Lone Druid, base damage was a level 1 damage increased by 2, Lycan by 2, Magnus decreased by 2, Marcy decreased by 2, Mars, Spear of Mars, cooldown decreased from 15 to 12 to 14 to 11, so 1 second on that. Akshar damage per second increased by 5, cool. God's Rebuke bonus damage versus heroes increased from 5 to 20 to 10 to 25, so doubles level 1, and then 5 damage all levels. So pretty cool. This doubling level 1 might be significant, but it's like a lot of like minor buffs, right? So hopefully we get to see more Mars because he's always really cool. All right, Medusa nerfs. What do they do? So they made her cooldown scale level 1. It's not just 10 seconds on Mystic Snake. Now it's 13 to 10. Cool. Mana Shield. Level 2 can now be learned on level 1 instead of level 3. So I guess that means you can just skill this, like as your first skill point, you can take this. I think that's what that means. Damage per mana got rescaled as well. So it used to be 2 to 4. Now it's 2 to 3.6. So late game Medusa is going to be significantly less tanky. And then... because that's like what 10%. That's 10% less tanky, right? 0.4 taken off this number. And then bonus mana, I didn't even know it did this. Bonus mana decreased from 200 to 300 to 0 to 200. I didn't know she was getting bonus mana on Mana Shield, like an extra thing, because I think someone said that Medusa's effective EHP level 1 was like 1500 or something, and it's why she felt like so oppressive to lane against. You just couldn't actually harass her out. So this is really nice to see. Screw you, Medusa, go away. Mirana, damage decreased by 4. This is actually pretty significant, I think, because a lot of the damage Mirana does to you in lane anyway is through right-click harassing you. So obviously this would hurt any like carry Mirana builds, but that hasn't been a thing in like a really long time. So for support Mirana, your poke is going to be like significantly reduced here. So sorry, Mirana. Naga Siren. Talent change. Mirror image damage decreased from 13 to 10. Okay, cool, whatever. Nature's Prophet. Okay, they're buffing Nature's Prophet, and it makes me uncomfortable. Teleportation. Cooldown decreased from 65 to 35, 60 to 30. So 5 seconds on that. This, I don't think it's going to be that big a deal, but, you know, we'll see. Max stacks increased from 3 to 12 to 6 to 12. So I'm going to be honest, I don't even know what the hell the stacks are in the teleport, but they doubled them. So whatever it is, it's twice as good level 1. Wrath of Nature. Damage increased from 105 to 185 to 120 to 190. So this got 15 damage buff on it. Given that this hits like everybody you can see, that's kind of significant. That's a lot of added damage. But I mean, overall, like how often do you get hit by this and how much does he really teleport on cooldown? Probably not the end of the world, right? Nyx Assassin. I'm just super wary of Nature's Prophet getting over buffed because it's so annoying to play against him. Nyx, level damage unchanged. He gets 2% less spell amp on his level 10 talent, you know, whatever. This is important though, because like with Dagon and all that stuff adding up, like taking any damage away from him is significant, but just the fact that it's on a talent is just like, you know, it doesn't seem super relevant to me all the time, but it is, you know, you can't ignore it. All right, Oracle, Fortress Inn, cooldown increased 15 to 6 to 18 to 6. Okay, yuck, don't like it. Fate Seed mana cost increase. So they just changed this to be, instead of like flat 50 mana, then made it like, or whatever the hell it was, to scaling mana cost. And they just upped that as well. So they think Oracle is too powerful now, which is probably freaking true, because like his W just working like it has an old Aghanim scepter all the time is kind of insane. So anyway, 15 mana level 1, the same level 4. So it's going to be harder to do supporty things early, which is when supports are supposed to be the most effective. So this is kind of like a, I mean, it's mana cost, not the end of the world, and 3 seconds on this spell, not the end of the world. Probably definitely still playable. Obviously it's still playable, but you know, they're just trying to hurt his early game. Pango lost 4 damage level 1. Yikes, that sucks for a mid laner for sure. Swashbuckles, this is interesting. So damage dash range decreased from 850 to 550 to 850. So you have to scale up to that range now. But they added 2% chance on Lucky Shot. So I think what they're trying to do is make this spell more about the damage it does and less about your ability to escape super far. They're trying to make it a little bit more offensive when you add these two things together. And I mean, it is kind of a catch-all spell, right? Like, it's a nuke, it's a harass, it's an escape, it's a chase. It kind of does everything. So I can understand affecting the range, but this is really annoying. Like, if you built that muscle memory for a hero and then they do this to you, that sucks, man. Sorry, Pango players. PL, actually the same thing that they did to Medusa. So they went from a flat cooldown to a scaling cooldown and added 3 seconds to it, right? Where'd it go? Yeah, 13 to 10, so it has to go to level 4 to be at the same. Same thing here with PL. Starts at Used to just be 7, now it's 10 to 7. So you can get back to that same point, but they're trying to hit these carries that are like really oppressive to play against. They're trying to make it so they don't also have a super strong lane and then out farm you and then out carry you anyway. It's really annoying, you know, adding those things together. So nice change there. Phoenix, nothing changed. Int gain on Primal Beast by 0.3. Cool. That's going to be probably helpful since you just made Crimson Guard cost mana and everything, and does have a low mana pool. Uproar. So roar bonus armor per stack increased from 1 to 4 to 2 to 5. Okay, that's a lot more armor. Pulverize hit damage increased from 100 to 200 to 125 to 225. So that's also nice. It's going to be easier to nuke people early. Talent upper armor per stack increased from 4 to 6. Okay, so they're just trying to make him easier to play with more mana, tankier in general, does more damage. They just really want people to play Primal. Cool, works for me. He's kind of fun to watch. Razor agility gain increased by 0.2, base armor increased by 1, and he gets 4% move speed level 1. So this went from 6 to 24 to 10 to 25% move speed. So a nice early game buff for him. Ricky, base armor decreased by 1. Smokescreen, Ag Shard armor reduction decreased from 6 to 5. I didn't even know this reduced your armor with the shard, so that's cool. It does less of that now. Blink Strike, base charge restore time increased from 25 to 10 to 25 to 13. So they're trying to make it so he's just less all over the place later on, which is nice. It's going to be easier to like lock him down. Let's see. Sinking unchanged. Shadow Fiend, Shadow Raise damage talent increased by 15. I mean, this adds up later if you're doing like the Nuker Shadow Fiend build, but it's not a problem unless you're level 15, right? So this is kind of one of those things I think is like minor. Usually when they do these talent changes, I think they're changing them because it's just about pick rate. Like if nobody's picking a talent, you know, then they buff it. And if everyone's picking it, then they nerf it, right? Like probably with the Nyx one where everyone just wants to do a ton of damage, right? All right, let's see. Silencer gets 5 extra mana cost on his Glaives of Wisdom, so that's 20 instead of 15. Sucks for you. Skywrath Mage base int decreased by 2. Doesn't sound massive, but yeah. Slap Pounce. Ag Scepter distance decreased from 1100 to 1000. So that's probably just to make it a little bit easier to catch him because this range is kind of crazy. It does feel like Slark just kind of yeets himself off your screen every time he uses it, which is kind of funny. But I think it's trying to make it so it's a little bit easier to deal with. Okay, Snapfire lost 2 damage. Probably significant on a hero that has to rely a lot on right-clicking people to harass them down and then bursting them to kill them. Sniper, this is a cool change. Take aim now provides plus 200 attack range when active. So that's cool. Yeah, you make him feel more like a sniper. I like it. Good stuff. Spirit Breaker got a whole host of buffs. Strength gain increased from 3.0 to 3.3, so he gets 10% more strength. Just think of it that way. Late game, Spirit Breaker has 10% more strength. Cool. Charge of Darkness. Mana cost decreased from 120 to 100. Cool. Can no longer target debuff immune enemies without Ag Scepter. That's probably like a holdover weird change, you know, like probably they didn't want it to work like that anyway, but you know, they're trying to make it consistent with everything else. Bulldoze. That is a nerf though, for sure. Bulldoze status resistance increased from 35 to 65 to 40 to 70. So he gets an extra 5% status resistance. Cool. A greater bash. Cooldown decreased from 1.5 to 1.2. So that's actually a 20% cooldown reduction, which means 20% more bashes. Woohoo! Movement speed as damage increased from 15 to 30 to 20 to 35. So he gets 5% more damage, can bash you 20% more often, has 5% more status resistance. And then on top of that, Nether Strike, cooldown decreased from 90 to 50 to 70 to 30. So 20 seconds less cooldown on his ult. Kind of nuts. I'm wondering if they did all of these buffs because of this one kind of massive nerf. That would be my guess. They really don't want you to just be able to like counter BKB by charging, because this is a pretty significant nerf, right? Especially because I think I don't think this spell went through BKB before, but Bash goes through BKB, and this applies a Bash. So I don't play a lot of Spirit Breaker. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I know this is a significant nerf, so I can understand why they're adding this many buffs. Hopefully this makes him a lot more playable because he is fun to play. I know, we'll see. I'm going to try him out for sure and see how he feels. Techies, nothing changed. All right, TA got, close this up. TA got 5 move speed increase, meld, plus 30 damage, level 4. Okay, so much better scaling. Sunder can no longer target debuff immune enemies. Okay, cool. I think it's probably just like the Spirit Breaker one, probably wasn't really supposed to be able to. Timber Saw got 3 damage level 1. That's pretty cool. Fiend's Gate. Alright, so what'd they do to Underlord? Extra 100 mana cost on this. And then level 10 talent Firestorm radius decreased from 100 to 75. Okay. It makes it a little bit harder to land it, I guess. Cooldown reduction of 1 second as well. Okay, so they're trying to make it like less oppressive. You know, he's Fiend's Gating on top of you less, and he's got a worse Firestorm, basically. That's what we'll sum it up with. Okay, Venge got 3 damage. Veno got 4 damage, kind of significant there. Visage got 2 damage. Yuck. Alright, Void Spirit got a whole host of nerfs here. So this sounds really bad, but this translates to 5 less damage level 1. That hurts a lot. That really hurts, because that's going to make it harder to contest last hits, right? He also lost 10 damage on Aether Remnant level 1, actually on all levels. And Resonant Pulse does less damage at later levels, so it loses 15 damage there, level 4. So that hurts as well. Mana regen decreased on this talent by 0.25, whatever. Astral Step crit decreased by 20%. So a lot of nerfs, mainly to his laning here, but also to his late game damage. So hopefully, I don't know. I mean, I like this hero. I think he's cool to watch. So hopefully he's not completely nerfed into the ground, but I can kind of understand why they nerfed him, because he is kind of a powerhouse right now. Windrunner unchanged. Wyvern got 4 damage. That's actually kind of nice. Same thing here, plus 10% lifesteal on Wraith King. And what did they do to Zeus? Arc Lightning, mana cost decreased from 80 to 95 to 75 to 90. Yuck. Making a spammy spell more spammy. Thunder God's Wrath damage increased from 300 to 550 to 350 to 600. This is a global lion ult now. That's nuts. Okay. Talents. Lightning Bolt mini stun increased from 0.3 to 0.5. I thought you were trying to reduce all the stuns. What is this? What are you doing, Valve? Arc Lightning current health as damage increased from 4 to 6%. They are really trying to make Zeus do more damage and be more annoying. So look out for the Zeus. So biggest winners here, I'd say probably Zeus for sure. Anybody that has lifesteal, great. A lot of these heroes that rely on right-clicking you a lot in lane to do their damage, pretty cool. Void Spirit, significant nerfs, I think. I don't think this is the end of the world for Underlord. Spirit Breaker looks significantly buffed to me. I'd be interested to see what this does with mid matchups. You don't see Sniper that much, but maybe this will be really interesting for him. Primal, they're trying to push him. I think you might see more of him. I think you're gonna see a little bit less PL and Medusa now, just because of these changes here. And hopefully Medusa's actually killable level 1, which would be nice. Let's see. Might see more Mars. I think you're gonna see more Lion, guys. I'm gonna be playing it more for sure. I don't think Lena's coming back, guys. It's yeah. Hopefully you get to see more Lifestealer though. He's much more of a threat level 1. And let's see, really trying to push Invoker. You'll see more of him, I think. You'll see more Earthshaker. And what's another significant one? Chaos Knight, they're really trying to push that too. And Alchemist is much weaker now. So I think overall, it's just like people are going to pick up different neutral items. A few heroes are going to get picked a bit more and a few of them a bit less. I think this is probably Vanguard changes and XP changes are probably the most significant things here. I'll be really curious to see how common Vanguard builds are now. How much easier this is to deward and how much easier it is to stay up in levels. Like if this is significant enough, then this is a global buff to every support hero, right? So this might dramatically shift the tempo of the entire game. I hope so anyway. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other Dota 2 videos. I also have a Dota coaching playlist. I'll put that at the end of the video. I stream every weekday on Twitch at Mr. TV. And thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.